Hey everyone, how's it going? I was hoping that this video was going to be made under some different circumstances, but unfortunately it's not, and here we are. Today is January 4th, 2021, and as reported in the heavy metal media several hours ago, frontman of Children of Bodom, Alexi Laiho, has unfortunately passed away at the age of 41. It's not been reported yet what the actual cause of death is, but it's being speculated that basically just as a generalization due to health issues. And I don't think that's coming as a huge surprise to fans of Alexi or Children of Bodom, just kind of having seen his condition over the last number of years, just kind of looking frail at times in live performances, so on and so forth. I'm making this video more so, I guess, as a personal tribute to Alexi, and just the reason for that being that it's very hard for me to put into words, I guess, just how impactful his playing was for me over the years. I think so more specifically, though, when I was a teenager at the age of 15, 16 years old. I first got into Children of Bodom in 2006, actually right around this time in 2006, so literally 15 years ago. And that kind of makes it all the more surreal, really, because when I was first listening to the band Children of Bodom, again, specifically, when I was first listening to them 15 years ago, never would have actually figured that, that day would come, that literally 15 years later, that, we'd be talking about this right now, just everybody in the heavy metal media, and just all the fans, so on and so forth. We never figured that we would be talking about this. For me, Alexi Laiho's playing represented something of I guess, a revolution in my mind. I've always been more of a rhythm guitar player for the almost 17 years that I've been playing, and the first time I heard Children of Bodom, I was just literally blown away by the, not only just the technical execution of the music in general, but especially the lead work. That was mainly the big one. I love the rhythm work too. I thought the rhythms and the songs were absolutely awesome. But the lead playing was unlike anything that I'd ever heard at that time in the context of extreme metal. You're talking about the usage of, big time arpeggios, multi-octave scales, things that were common, I think, in the 80s with the whole shred revolution going on then, but it kind of, I guess in some ways, had lost its flavor, or lost its footing, I should say, in extreme metal, just I think in the 90s, and even at that point, almost in the early 2000s, it just wasn't as big as it later became once that resurgence happened. And I think Alexi Laiho and Children of Bodom were a very huge reason for that resurgence of the technical lead playing. It was interesting, though, for me on a personal note, because I remember, just again being a teenager, first getting into the band, and I was just about to turn 16 years old, and at that time it's like you're a teenager, you're growing up, and you're trying to understand maybe some of the things you're feeling, as you're changing and you're progressing into adolescence and adulthood, and sometimes it's very hard, I think, to be able to express sometimes that angst that you feel, and maybe just that insecurity and that unsureness that you feel. And so I remember first getting a copy of Hate Crew Death Roll from my best friend. He burned a copy for me and gave it to me, and I remember it was like the right album at the right time, because it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And again, not only was it very influential just from a guitar playing standpoint, but it just meant a lot to me personally. I was going through a rough time, again, just in those teenage years, and you hear that for the first time, and it sort of represents a beacon of hope, I think, in a sense. So again, it was just interesting on a personal level just how much that album affected me, and in a good way. And I think just over time, the rest of the Children of Bodom releases affected me in a good way as I heard them. So much so that, like I said, that was 2006 when I first heard the band, and I remember me and my best friend just kind of both wanting to have Alexi Laiho signature guitars. And I remember many years later the opportunity presented itself, and I actually bought this one, which I've mentioned this one in the last video that I did here on my channel, but this is the ESP LTD Alexi 600, Alexi Laiho signature model, and it's interesting because this guitar I haven't played a whole ton over the years. I mentioned in the last video that I'm not really into Floyd Rose systems, and as you can see, of course, this one has a Floyd on it. So I bought this one, like I said, probably about, or I don't know if I mentioned this yet, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of spitballing, just going off the cuff here. I first bought this one 7.5 years ago in July of 2013, and I played it a good little bit after I got it, and I liked it. I never had a problem with it whatsoever, but again, just over time, just your aesthetic choices, or not only that, but just kind of like your gear choices as far as from a feel standpoint, the way that your hand sits on the bridge and all that. my hand never really sat on a Floyd Rose bridge, as comfortably as it did, say, a Tune-o-matic. So just over time, this instrument got less and less use, even to the point where in the last couple of years I thought about actually even selling it. I'm glad, though, in the end that I held on to it, especially knowing kind of where we're at now. It's again, it's hard for me to put into words, I guess, just, how much Alexi's playing meant to me, and just, again, just impacted me at such a young age, to where all these years later, even though I'm not a huge Children of Bodom fan anymore and wasn't really a fan of their last several albums, it didn't mean that I stopped caring. Still cared very much about the band, about the members, and all that sort of stuff. So, again, what I'm trying to say is, I guess it's good that I held on to this instrument, just kind of maybe in a sense as the ultimate personal tribute, if you want to put it that way. And I certainly don't plan on selling this thing anytime soon now, just knowing that, I guess, the personal meaning of it just really, again, has hit me like a ton of bricks, because I think sometimes you knowingly or unknowingly kind of forget about these personal attachments that you put to things. Anyways, I don't want to go off too much about myself, but again, just Alexi Laiho, not only did his playing mean a whole lot to me personally, but it obviously meant a whole ton to a lot of people around the world. Almost all of my guitar friends over the years have all cited just how much of an influence he was and how much they enjoyed his playing. And this is a guy who won so many Guitarist of the Year awards in different publications, different websites, all that sort of stuff. And a guy who, with his band, they released, several albums. I want to say it was 7 or 8 by the time it was all said and done. And quite a few of these albums making it onto the, the music charts in so many different countries. And I know obviously in Finland, Children of Bodom, a very huge band just representing their home country, and usually very much at the top of at the top of the charts anytime that they put out an album. So what I'm trying to say by communicating that is that, just with the overseas success of the band, and even here in the United States for that matter, Children of Bodom's legacy is safe. Obviously, Alexi Laiho's legacy is safe. And, maybe I guess one other way to put it is over the years, as extreme metal has evolved, and, it's kind of been this thing in the metal community where, the heavier the band is, the more respect they get, for doing things their way and not compromising, having the attitude and just being more so-called brutal than other bands. And so Children of Bodom, I think, in some ways maybe fell out of favor in the heavy metal community, and I think in some ways maybe that was undeserved. Again, it's hard to overstate just how influential the band was on so many levels, as far as, technical songwriting, multi-octave scales in the solos, the arpeggios, the sweep picking, so on and so forth. All I can really say is, I guess, just, in conclusion, is that, through all of it, Alexi Laiho is truly going to be missed. I mean, passed away at age 41, obviously a very young age to go away at. And again, one of those things where I think when you're listening to the stuff as a kid, you would never picture, 15 years later, that you're going to wake up one day and, you're logging into work and go on blabbermouth.net and see that Alexi's gone. And so, I don't know, I guess just it's hard to put into words just the weight of all of it, and just, how disappointing it is, because you would figure that a guy like that at a young age, just 41 years old, you'd figure still has some time to go. And even though Children of Bodom had broken up, it looked like the future was relatively bright for Alexi and his new band. I want to say they were called Bodom After Midnight. Like I said, just it seemed like that things were going to be bright, and I saw that Bodom After Midnight had played actually a show or two in Finland, during this whole COVID-19 pandemic. And so, one of those things where one of the first major, extreme metal bands to actually be performing in front of a live audience again, and you were hoping maybe that it was going to be a sign of things to come as far as live concerts were concerned. And I think just, again, also as far as just the health of, Alexi Laiho's legacy just in a band, because it felt like that he still had some things to say, and that, that he was going to continue on for quite some time longer. Unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be, and like I said, Alexi Laiho has passed away, and it's something that it's going to affect a lot of people. At the very least, though, all we can say is that, we all admired him for his playing. I think we always will admire him for his playing. And again, just extremely influential, and obviously will never be forgotten whatsoever. So, that's just going to kind of wrap it up, I guess, from me. Again, just kind of spitballing some thoughts here. I don't know, just hard to put into words, I guess. Appreciate you taking the time out to listen. If you're watching anything on this channel, obviously you know that I don't make very much content, so it makes or I should say that it takes an awful lot for me to, sit here in front of a camera and make a video. So I just wanted to, give some thoughts about Alexi Laiho, and I hope everybody takes care. I hope everybody has a good and safe 2021. And to Alexi Laiho, salute you, buddy. Thank you for everything.